the sport wouldn't evolve unless it was you. You had the right personality, and then to have the actual, just the coolness, how you were, like glasses, like cool, just whatnots, and then the way you rode was cool looking.
You know, and that's just the way it is. It's one of those things where if you can win and back up all the craziness that you're doing, then it works.
Yeah, and the crazy part, like just on his point. Yeah, I would do the same thing, and it allows you not to have to say anything,
right.
And you wouldn't believe what it was doing to the other guys.
Oh, I
like
know.
On there, I'm like, this dude came out with taillights on the back end. I mean, that means.
I don't know. I just always felt like, wow, okay, this is what it's like at the end of it, you know?
Yeah.
And you never know what that feeling is. Like, you never know. Like, okay, like when you're winning, you're like, shit's gonna go on forever.
Yeah,
I'm gonna win forever.
Yeah,
especially when you dominate.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it doesn't. You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
So,
hey guys, what's up? It's your boy James Stewart, and we're here at the podcast where, of course, I got my co-host, Mr. Roger Larson.
What's up?
And as you guys know, behind the camera that you'll never see, but you'll always hear, Cole
Beach.
That's what it is. That's what it is. So we in the house. This is my house. But we are in the king of Supercross. So they consider his house Anaheim's house, but this is his house today. I got a legend, a guy I looked up to since I was a kid. I imitated my style off this dude. I used to rewind my Fox racing tapes. Like, seriously, Mr. Jeremy McGrath. Welcome to the show, man.
what's up, James? Good to be here. Hi, Raj.
What's up?
This is like me meeting Michael Jordan. A lot of kids meeting Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods. And I know I usually don't get all like starstruck, but what you've done for the influence you had on my career, and I know a lot of other kids, like, it's huge. So it's an honor for you to be here, seriously. And I'm just,
I appreciate the accolades and the cool comments, but I'm equally as stoked to be here.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you having me on.
No, it's awesome. I'll make it awkward, but hey, we'll get over that. But yeah, we were just talking off air, but my history with you kind of started back when I think I was around maybe PWs or maybe 60s and stuff. And we both were around for Fox at that time. And this is like still growing up watching you. Like, it was, I think you had Sinisalo in the beginning on there, and I caught you in 93 in Sinisalo. Then you went to 94, number one. Remember, you still dominating. And then I really got close to you when I wouldn't say close to you, I got to meet you whenever we went to Fox and at Orlando and in Gatorback, because I used to have a couple races in Tampa that year. And I still remember to this day, you passed me your goggles at Gatorback one time, and then I was able to go in your box van, hang out with you and Lamy at that time. And dude, I don't know if you guys were able, I guess it was 96. Were you guys able to run one on the 250 and 125 at that time? Or both of you guys won? I know Steve won like 3 in a row, but I think it wasn't until 95 that you won your title.
Yeah, I won the 95 outdoor motocross title. And then, yeah, that's when we were the same, right? So 96, we ran number ones together.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, of course, back then it was box fans. It wasn't these huge semis and stuff, but still Honda had the presence. And you guys brought me in, and I was sitting there, and we might have a photo of it, but that changed my whole, like, perspective on like what I wanted as a career, and even like what I do for the fans, because I always go back to like bringing the fans in and what you did for me, having the same opportunity. I said this in interviews. I'm like, dude, like to be able to bring a fan in and the influence that Jeremy had to me, like I try to get that back. So to me, the fans are like being what you did for me is why I treated my fans as that way. Is because that's how I was, and I know like the influence that you had on me. So to be able to give that back is cool. And dude, watching all the Fox tapes and all that stuff, like I was imitating. I wanted to be like McGrath. Couldn't do the knack-knacks like you did. Like I remember in 03 doing the knack-knacks and trying to give that back. But I think you, along with a lot of other guys, like just the whole sport in general, like it's what you've done for this sport. It definitely wouldn't have been here without you. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks. I'm super blessed to be able to have a racing career as a job, right? I think we all are. We all were. And I remember those times back in the day, like you coming up on the bumper, on the box fans. I mean, the box fan days were so cool.
Yeah, they were.
Right. And we were talking off air, and I had this similar experience when I was, this was 89 for me. Like I'm just getting started. I'm privateer Honda. I'm like actually in high school working at Raceway Honda in the parts counter after school and stuff. But I got the chance to meet Ricky Johnson at the time, right? And he was kind of the guy. He was the guy before me. And I was the same thing. I got to sit on his bumper, got to chill out with him, and he actually acknowledged me at the time. Eventually got to ride with him.
Yeah.
He was Fox at that time too. And it's funny how many opportunities along the way that Fox has been a part of.
Yeah.
And I think it was probably you were on the Fox amateur team at the time.
Yep.
Todd Hicks was the guy. Mm-hmm. So he was kind of the conduit to.
Were you aware of him at that age coming up?
Yeah, because when we first met, James was Team Green, I think, at the time. So I was Team Green too when I was first starting out at the time. So right. Team Green at the time was the really only amateur program you ever really paid attention to, right?
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, me being in California and you being out here in Florida, but there was always the phenom, and you were the phenom. So yeah, of course, I knew who he was.
I would say back in those days, it was a lot more relaxed. I don't know, like
I think so.
Kind of more chill. Like you could go up and I don't know, get in a box van, and it's not like it wasn't less fans or the people wasn't in the sport, but it was just different. I think Fox had a big part of that, like the videos and like the Steel Roots and the Terra Farmers and stuff. Like I think that stuff made you almost kind of do what Deegan is kind of doing, like letting you feel like you kind of know that person.
Right.
And so I think that persona of like what we saw on those videos allow me to be starstruck, but I guess the whole atmosphere was just so inviting to where today it's like people kind of disappear. Like kind of everybody has their own facility programs, and you don't really see those types of like videos. And you were, in my opinion, was the influence of that. And then you had the Crusty Demon Dirts was like, I guess maybe the metal militia kind of side of the wild side of that. Yeah. But I just remember so many, like the lightning strikes twice. If you remember that video, I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
There were just so many different ones, and it was cool to see. So just the feeling and being relaxed. And I was out at World Mini. I was racing there, and then I think the Supercross, or I don't know if you guys were out there racing Supercross. For some reason, you were out there for the World Mini, and I remember having a chance to go eat dinner with you and Pete.
Was
Fox.
World Mini around the U.S. Open time? Or was World Mini around the Supercross time? Because we used to race.
I don't even know. I'm
just trying to remember when the amateur races were.
Yeah, World Mini was in, I believe, April.
So that'd be near the end of the Supercross series.
Yeah, but I don't believe you guys were that's me. Sorry about that, rookie.
So maybe you were out and getting ready for World Mini or something. You were out there.
No, I was actually out there racing, but I don't think you guys were racing because I would have went to the race.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I mean, it might have been just there in Vegas, No,
maybe we're doing something for Honda, something for Fox at the time.
Yeah, I think it was something along with Fox because Pete, Fox used to bring you guys around, and again there was the videos and stuff and kids on the couch and all these different things. But overall, you were so kind to me, and I just remember like those days like it was yesterday. And whether it was like out there or here, it was cool. And I don't even know, like you were probably just being you, but the influence that you had on my life, and especially the fans, my fans should thank you because that's why they're so important to me because of what you did. So that's
look, I think it's cool because I appreciate all that, but at the same time, I love it when you don't have to. I'm not trying to be that guy. You know what I mean? It's just like, hey,
yeah, it's
cool when you see kids that are awesome, that are awesome riders, especially something I love so much. And then you have great companies that put these, the young guys and the older guys and the veterans and whatever, and they put them together. And I think that, you experienced a lot of it, the growth of the sport through the 90s.
Yeah.
And then into the 2000s, where things got a little less personal and a lot more private.
Yeah.
A little more corporate.
A little more corporate. And it, like back in the day when we first met and you were a little kid, you know, you didn't have like 5 guys to tell you to stay away from the bumper or stay away from the fence, or, you know, you can't come in here right now, you know.
You didn't have Big B.
Which was always a strange situation to me.
Yeah.
As I got older in the sport, is like it became more private, which you felt more distance from your fans.
Yeah.
You know, and that's when we had to come up with other ideas to try to stay connected, right? And not look like a guy that was untouchable. And like, I think one of the keys to me really helping the sport and really helping my own brand and helping the sport grow was just sort of trying to be relatable, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I wanted to feel like, dude, we're the same. We are all the same. We throw on a helmet. Okay, I can ride my bike. But if people feel like they can connect with you is when you can create growth, you know? And I just tried to always remember that, you know, like the sport was not a job at that time, although it was a job.
Yeah.
I just tried to keep it fun.
Yeah. And amen to that, because that's exactly the way it felt. And I remember having a chance to be able to meet, you know, Mike LaRocco and Emick, and there was and not saying anything negative about them, but there was a difference between you, and you were on top. And so at the same time, like, this guy is like winning I mean, 96, you won everything but one race. And I mean, shoot, when you had the earring and seriously, the 1-800-COLLECT, like, this guy was bigger than I mean, everything. The sport was evolved around him to the point to where I remember racing the local amateur races, and the first thing they would do, they would like come up and they would say a prayer, and then it was like, what happened in Supercross? Like, they would give us the results, you know, over the intercom, because back then we didn't have phones and stuff, otherwise you had to wait for Cycle News to come out and
a week
get that.
later.
Yeah, and if you got your magazine back then, but that was the only way we knew. But I would be waiting like, please God, please, did Jeremy win? And it was good. And so, but it was all because of, like, again, this photo, and you were relatable, and I was a young kid. So, but meeting those other guys, I didn't get that sense from them, because I think they were probably getting their ass kicked, you know, by you. But at the end of the day, it was once I got to meet Emick, and it was later on in the career, then hung out with him, it just seemed like it took a little bit more effort to get to know Jeff, or you were like, just, hey, what's up, coming in, and you were dominating. So 100%, I definitely think for my fans and being a showman and wanting to be like you from styles and treating the fans like you had a huge influence, probably one of the biggest influences on my career, definitely, what, if you're a star athlete, what the sport, to be an ambassador sport, what to try to be like. So I tried to imitate that as best as I can. And you're right, I think then it changed. And I think that's where Ricky came in and kind of changed that to where it was more serious, that corporate. He was like the Honda, like, you know, where Honda kind of switched a little bit. And we'll talk about that in a minute when you left. But it was more corporate training. You need your own facility. You get your own entourage. And then the more you don't show, the more fear it helped to help you on the racetrack. And then at one point, I don't know how many people remember this, but Ricky was like one of the most hated riders in the sport on there. Like
U.S. Open.
Yeah. He tried running a king thing.
Yeah,
that didn't help.
They brought him out in a chair with a king.
Hey, and I wasn't gonna get into it this early, but since we brought that up, like the fans, they love them some NC. So when I took the king out in his own house, the last Anaheim that you were going to run in 06, I got to rap the king. So I kind of know what Ricky.
Local crowd too.
Dude, they got me, man. They got me.
Well, the thing about yours and I situation, when you got knocked me down, I was in the way for one. Okay, I get that. At that point, I was probably whatever. I was having fun. I was not racing. I was racing for fun. But anyway, I got in your way. It happened. But the thing about that is that you got the fans for a week or so, right? But Ricky took it hard for a while because they were mad. Yeah. First of all, he went to Honda. Secondly, they tried to introduce him at the U.S. Open in the chair as the king, and the fans were not having that.
Yeah,
so it took him a while to win back the fans.
Yeah, no, 100%. I definitely got it that night on there. And then, but as far as with Ricky, he got it for a while, like pretty much his whole Honda career.
Yeah.
But that move wasn't him. You can't really blame him. I think that was more Feld.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you still got to put the king on. You got to know. Right?
I would agree that it was Feld, and that was not a slick move on their part either. But whoever was around Ricky at the time should have been like, whoa, pump the brakes. We're not doing this.
Yeah.
You know, that was just a little too soon.
Yeah.
Right? So whoever that was, not sure. Can't pin that on anybody, I guess. But, I mean, even if you asked Ricky himself, he probably would be like, whoa, I should have never done that.
Yeah, no, there's things that we all like, no, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
But, you know, that was, you know, thinking about that now, I don't know how many people at that time, because I don't feel like you did that, but really embraced that, like, hey, I'm that guy. You know what I mean? Like putting on the king, that crown was basically saying like he's done. Like I'm that guy. Like usually kind of it happens naturally, or the fans kind of give that to you. Where like I think where it got to shock Ricky was he really went in and said, "No, I am the king" on there, and that was the first time. I mean, he only beat you that one year, and I haven't seen anybody. I know for sure when I came in, like I didn't come in and say like, "Look, you
can't give yourself a nickname.
Yeah, you can't give yourself you're taking the crown, like just it lets it happen. So like I don't know if that's something that happened like for you, like when you started coming in and you started dominating in '93, because I remember your career like it's yesterday. Like I think you first race like Orlando, I think maybe you got like third or something. Then you had
fourth.
another.
Yeah, I was fourth that one.
Then you had another one. Then it was a little bit better. And then your first race was Anaheim. You won Anaheim.
Yeah. So I went fourth, fifth the next week at Houston. Then I won.
Then you won, and then it was game on at that point.
So the learning curve was like,
super steep.
And I remember that year he had this battle with Brian Swink, dude.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to be that next guy with Brian Swink, and then the following year you always had like Kradowski and LaRocco, but you always had like one random like guy, and so it was Brian Swink. Then it was like Damon Huffman, you know.
He had a
96
flash of brilliance for a while there. Ryan Hughes a little bit. But I would say your main competition week in, week out for a while, it was like really nobody. But LaRocco and Kondrowski, I guess, was possibly the guys that was supposed to dethrone you, where these other guys were possible. Like, hey, they're rookies in this. They had flash and all that. And I think that was at Seattle where you battled Brian Swink. Yeah, I battled Huffman there once.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yep.
And then Swink, you know, it was weird. It was random with Swink because when I went from 91, 92, Honda Team Peak Honda team,
which is Pro Circuit now.
Right. Pro Circuit. That's a Pro Circuit factory team now. It was an interesting divide, right? Because Swink went to Suzuki from there. We were on the same team.
Yeah.
And he was badass.
Yeah,
he was my main competition.
Coast,
yeah. And he was way better than me in motocross at that point. And he went to Suzuki and I stayed with Honda.
Yep.
And he went for the money and I didn't go for the money. I went for the bike. And so I always thought, you know, and this was just the way I grew up, but I always thought like if I could just have the right bike, the rest will come with it.
Yeah.
So I made all my decisions.
Your whole career.
Well, most of them. Yeah, most of them.
Yeah,
there's a few
one
slip ups there.
Yeah.
But
but your head was in the right place.
My head was in the right place,
Yeah.
exactly. And I was trying to get the right bike all the time because if you got the right bike, you produce the right results.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it kind of comes with it.
You were just way far ahead of where we're at now.
Right. So, anyways, those were some very fun, interesting times. Kondrowski, LaRocco were certainly big time competitors.
Yep.
Later on, it was Emig a little bit in Supercross, definitely in motocross.
Yep.
So yeah, it was it was an interesting time. Like growing up, you know, 93, 90, you know, 91, 92, 93, and then those are some of the best days of my life. I mean, I was a kid and had no overhead and was just trying to win races. Yeah,
I remember like for me when you caught my attention. I think it was like one of your last races on Peak Honda. I think it was like San Jose or something. Like you came from last and won that race.
Yeah, that was it. San Jose, 92.
Yeah, and then you moved up to the 250 class at then. But then it was like once you won, and then 94 was like like, damn, this dude's like good. Like you can watch him and he was different. And in 95, like it was the same thing. And in 96, like it seemed like they maybe caught up a little bit. Like
Right.
it wasn't such a noticeable, like 94, it was crazy. Like how much better you were in 94. And then same thing in 95. And then it seemed like they caught up a little bit, still not
On the
like
level.
not on the level like you were, but it seemed like in 96 you won more because like I don't know, one experience, but you know, at that time, like Rhino was coming in, he was faster at some races, knocking Emick down, and they were battling each other, but you were just like, I don't know, I guess as many races you won in 96, I felt like you were more dominant in 95 and 94 as far as the separation between the field.
Right. I think, you know, the funny thing it's funny you say that, because at that time, I think the style, like my BMX type style, was still one of the few guys that was doing it, right? So the separation was more.
Yeah.
I was the generation before, like the Stantons and the Bradshaw and some of the guys. It's funny I say Bradshaw. Bradshaw is someone I really loved.
Yeah.
He's 1 year younger than me, but he transferred. He was sort of, you know, he's retiring at that time or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but the generational style was changing, right? As a kid, we saw Guy Cooper, we saw Jeff Stanton, we saw Ricky Johnson. Even they jump super high, and like they go as high as they could possibly go to jump these jumps.
Especially O'Coop.
Yeah, I mean, it was just Wardy and Matasevich and Glover and all these guys. And, you know, my sort of, you know, because I started late, because of my BMX career and because of some of those techniques that I was able to figure out how to do on a dirt bike, it kind of took over. So the separation looked very different at that time.
Yes.
Like you said, in 96, those guys were now trying to pick up on some of my style. So they were trying to close the gap back up, and they did.
Yeah.
And so there was a little tighter racing at the time, and 96 looked a little more like we all kind of were in the same zone a little bit, even though I won a lot of races.
You won all but one race.
All but one race, yeah.
Just let you know.
Anyway,
throw that out.
The gap wasn't maybe so big. Some of them, yes, but some not. So.
Yeah. No, it's cool to hear you say that, because, like, you know, your whole career, when I say it, like, you had an influence on my life, you probably can tell by what I'm telling you. Like,
you know, all the races.
I know all the races on there. And then I remember I was so, like, sad, like, at St. Louis that, like, just sad. Like, I'm like, dude, he lost. Like, it's like, I can only imagine how dominant you were. It was kind of like when Tiger Woods was in his era. Like, when it came to majors, like, when he lost, it was like, what? Like, it was such a big deal. And then obviously 97 happened, and then it almost started becoming that way again in Yamaha. But then you had Wyndham, and then you had guys that coming in with more talent, not more talent, but they had more talent than maybe Emick or previous guys. So they could pick up on that. But you definitely came in, again, in 94, 95, and you were the first one to actually jump nose, like, you know, front end down on there, and it was moving. So it's kind of cool to, like, think about, like, when you watch those few years, and I go back and watch my first couple years on 125s and doing the scrub, like, you were doing stuff that was natural to you, and it almost was so different that I don't think people, like, caught on to it until they caught on to it, and they're like, dude, this is a whole different style. We have to react. Same thing with the BUBBAS scrub. Like, they brought it up in 2003 at Budds Creek, but if you go back to dude, Gary Bailey's got some stuff on. I'm back at the 2001 on the 125 at not World Mini, but one of the Texas races. And I'm scrubbing back then, and then 2002, I'm scrubbing, like, during that. So I think it was, like, so different. And then they finally saw it, and then they saw, no way, that's a speed thing. Like, that's not just the way he looks. That's actually a new technique.
Right.
And then so God started doing that. And when you got into the later 90s, you know, that's why it was a little bit more competition, but still you were MC. So I think you just winning so much and just being so dominant just allowed you, just like in 96, like, you were just better. Even though they figured out what you were doing, you still was better. And I kind of look at that as the same thing as my beginning part of my career. Like, when you look at me and you look at the guys I was racing at Langston and Brownie, it was like a clear separation. I mean, like, the two eras, like, work. And then as I kept going, Ricky started picking up, and Chad. And then so it's cool to watch that transition on that.
Yeah, it's like with anything, it evolves, right? You were watching me do stuff, and then naturally you're like, okay, I'm doing that. But then you come up with a scrub that you were just doing. That was just you. You weren't trying to be like, you weren't trying to go, hey, I'm going to come up with a new move, or I'm going to take this thing and I'm going to turn it into this. It's just trying to find speed, right?
Yeah.
And the front end down thing was just trying to find speed, get back to the ground as fast as I can.
Yeah.
And that was a total thing from BMX, and then it's just great to see how everything changes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's never going to stay the same. It's always going to change. And the greats are always going to figure out how to make it better and make it faster.
Yeah.
And so it was a good time. I think the sport at the time when that transition was happening, a generational gap between the old school style and then my new style, the sport was ready for something new.
Yeah.
You know, whether it was going to be me or whether it was going to be somebody else. Of course, I'm glad it was me, but the sport was ready. It was ready for some new school stuff, and it really transferred over good.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I could think of the personalities that was in our sport. The only person it could have been was you. I mean, really, even this photo with us.
Yeah.
And it maybe,
photo.
Fans out there, it maybe seems like I'm slurping here, but I just think I'm just like meeting Tiger Woods. And I've actually never had a chance to talk to you like this. So I'm kind of fanning out my own self, but just your personality and the way you were with me and just how natural it came off. The sport wouldn't evolve unless it was you. You had the right personality, and then to have the actual, just the coolness, how you were, like glasses, like cool, just whatnots, and then the way you rode was cool looking. Like it was in a good spot. Fro was cool too. I mean, dude, he was like he was the only one that I've seen like in the tub with all the ladies and stuff. But it wasn't, it was like one of the ones I saw that my parents put my it was
blinders.
Yeah, blinders on. Like you did it. It was different. And then again, like the 1-800 collect and bringing the sport like mainstream, and just your personality, it was like perfect. And then I think I'm sure you had a huge influence on Pastrana as well. I think these different. When they talk about riders and Mount Rushmore, and we'll talk about Eli and his position in Reed, what I look at that as like, there's people who changed the sport, like maybe not the most winning is or dominant, but as a sport in whole, like you put, RC, if you put me up there and like guys like that just not only won, but they actually had an influence on the sport in general. And for sure, to me, like you're top of that list as far as this guy's changed the sport. Like he created those opportunities to where like when I came in wearing pink gear, it was okay. And then being black.
Well, it was only okay because you could back it up.
Oh, yeah, true.
And I always say this today: you come out wearing pink gear, you better be pretty badass.
Yeah, and
it doesn't always work.
No, it doesn't.
Some people, it doesn't always work.
No. But that was again like you used to come out with the little dingleberries and lit up helmet for like opening ceremonies, and I think it was 2000 at Anaheim 1-2.
Tail lights, we had tail lights, we had wild.
This dude was all this. So
I think the funny thing about that is, my riding ability allowed me to be brave enough to just go out there and do the earrings and do the sunglasses, do the crazy bleached hair, do the wild paint jobs on my helmets.
Yeah.
And we were talking about earlier, how you don't intentionally, but you sort of intentionally, like nonchalantly mess with people that way.
Yeah.
You come out with some sick gear, your zebra stripe gear, you come out with the baddest paint job, you come out with stuff and you got the riding to back it up. You don't have to say anything. You don't say anything. They'll look at you and go, whoa. And so that was
how many times did that happen?
Yeah, totally. And that was me. I'm not a big bragger and talker. Of course, I'll walk close to the sun sometimes. Like there's a fine line. I've always said it. There's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. Right?
Yeah.
Being confident's great, but you can cross that line and
Real
look like
quick.
a total D.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I walked the line. I'm not going to say I didn't. That was fun. And I enjoyed making those guys like look at me and go, whoa, whoa, whoa. But really what happened is the riding and my Supercross confidence in the riding really just allowed me to be brave and kind of work on that personality and work on those crazy things. I had the blue hair, I had the long hair, I had the shaved sides, I had the earrings. I had all the stuff, even the nipple rings. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember the nipples.
Yeah, that was like,
Yeah.
my wife laughs at me so hard today. She's like, you are such an idiot. And I was an idiot, but I was doing stuff that was just so people were shocked by.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And it was just, it was working.
Yeah.
And it was only working because I could win races.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Because the guy can win, you can do anything, you know, and that's just the way it is. It's one of those things where if you can win and back up all the craziness that you're doing, then it works.
Yeah. And the crazy part, like just on his point, yeah, I would do the same thing. And it allows you not to have to say anything.
Right.
And you wouldn't believe what it was doing to the other guys.
Oh, I
like
know.
On there. I'm like, this dude came out with taillights on the back end. I mean, that means thinking we gonna see taillights.
Yeah.
And then you go out and dominate, but it was a psychological thing as well to where you didn't have to say anything. So if it didn't go right, you're like, oh, I mean, dude, I had taillights. I ain't mean nothing by it. But in the back of your head, be like, I know I'm good enough that they probably gonna see them lights light up on there.
Yeah.
But dude, it was so cool. It was awesome.
I mean, it's psychological warfare.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really is. I mean, even though it's physical warfare too, it's just like sometimes, you know, how many times you go to the line when you just knew that they were beat?
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a great feeling.
Yeah.
And you don't have to say a word.
Yeah. No,
And only the unique guys get to that point, right?
Yeah.
And so I was lucky to be part of that. And at the same time, the sport just grew up. We got better TV. Feld did a great job of making better TV for us. I mean, when I first started racing, I mean, you had to wait for Cycle News. You had to see Supercross, Moto World, ESPN2 on like 2 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday night or something.
1-900 Pro Race.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. 1-900 Pro Race.
No,
yeah.
dude, it was a lot. That's why when I got the VHS tapes, I still got all of them from like '96. Like that's how, because I never had a riding coach. Like you were my riding coach. I just watch you
videos
and just like learn, and that's how I learned how to ride. And so the scrub, I mean, it came just from trying to figure out how to go faster on there. The same thing with the nose down. But, you know, it's curious to think, because I always heard like stories, you know, with you and I guess back in training and back in the day with you and like Emick and then some of the other guys. And it always seemed like there was always these mind games. For instance, like, you know, test track incidents and some of this stuff we not even bring up. You know, I got along with Jeremy. Jeremy was my mechanic for a while, which was Emick's mechanic, Albert.
Yeah.
And so he used to tell me all these stories. I was like, damn, that dude was like legit, like on there. So, I mean, you couldn't get away with it this day and age unless, you know, McDo or somebody like that, you know. But, like, did you feel like hatred, like from like some of the guys like on there, or was everybody pretty cool? Like, I guess the only person I could see maybe being that way, like, how was your relationship with like Mike LaRocco and Kudrowski? Like, how was those guys?
I felt like my relationship with most all the guys were really good. And, you know, I knew early on that if I was I can't create enemies with these guys, right? Yeah. Because it's just going to cost me points. It's going to cost me a championship. It's going to cost me anything. I really just knew early on I'd, you know, test them a little bit, just to see where they stand and all this stuff, but I would never really try to rough someone up unless it was definitely needed, right? Because I got along with all the guys, and that was the unique part about the 90s, and different than it is today. Like the whole top 10 guys, we used to hang out. We'd go places, and we would train together. We would ride together. I had, like you said, I had my own track at the time. I was one of the few that had my own track, and that just was from growing up out in the country, really. Yeah. But like Phil Lawrence, Ryan Hughes and Phil Lawrence and I raced dirt bikes since we were 13, 14. When I started, they were my friends. So when we were all in the pro ranks, we were like, can't believe we're all in the pro ranks. We're like all here together. We all started at 80 novices. Yeah. And now here we are. So we rode together and we hung out together, and sometimes we trained together. We mountain biked together. We did a lot of this stuff together. And we were growing up. We were hanging out at the races together.
I guess I actually didn't even think about that. Yeah, there was a lot of videos, and I remember seeing like sometimes even like you and Emick or somebody in different gear, like where it was Terra Farmer, like they might be riding with you, for instance, like Phil Lawrence. But I'm assuming like it's competitors as you were, like you can go different ways. I actually don't remember you ever like taking out anybody like on there. Like you really never like rough riding to the point to where, I mean, there was no Barshiness on there or Chicken and
Larry Ward.
Yeah, like none of that stuff. But did you feel like by riding with Phil and those guys that you were almost, they could ride with you, and as good as they were, it was almost like you were almost controlling them in a sense, like you were more talented than them. It would almost like allow them to look at you because you would go out and win on the weekends. I don't know, but then you guys were trained and they would see all the stuff like to where they wouldn't try to beat you in a sense. Does that make sense? Cause
yeah. Maybe they just subconsciously, they just like, okay, this is our position.
Yeah.
This is where we're at. This is how it's going to be. You know, what's funny is I was never threatened by anybody in racing. Emig pissed me off a lot.
Yeah.
He pissed me off a lot. And it's just because of his riding etiquette, right? And he was always chop you on the jumps and try to hurt you. And I'm like, what? Dude, it would irritate me so bad.
He was.
We never got along because of that. We get along fine now. Of course, we're older. But back then, it was just like, dude, you're trying to kill me.
Yeah, he was.
But it made for some good racing.
Yeah, that part was ridiculous. But, you know, I mean, maybe he just felt like, obviously he felt like that's what he had to do to try to keep me somehow near him or behind him or whatever.
Especially off the gates. Off the start, that dude would get chopped off so hard.
And he was a good starter.
Yeah.
So it was like tough to deal with. I had to have a whole strategy just for him, aside from the rest of the guys. But back to the field, you know, Ryan Hughes and Phil and whoever else was riding, we were riding together back at the time, Budman, some guys. I always wanted to help them. Like, even being the best, I was never afraid of like helping them. I wanted them to go faster.
Yeah.
I wanted them to feel some of what I was feeling.
Were they
right?
open, were they open to it?
They were. We rode together a lot. Phil Lawrence was one of my best buds back at the time, and we rode a ton. And Rhino too. Yeah. And often days, you've had track. You know when guys come around and ride. Often days, Rhino would be beating me on Monday to Friday.
Dude, that was like Kyle Regal. Regal would go faster than me all week at the test track.
Saturday, you never saw him.
He didn't even qualify.
Yeah, so same thing.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, where were you? Like, Thursday, you were killing it. And Saturday, you're not. But, I mean, for me, which is one of the advantages I had, like on Saturdays, I just used to get jacked because of the fans. I loved it. Yeah. Like, I lived for that. Some people fold for that. Yeah. Right? I lived for that. Yeah. All I wanted was the lights, and I wanted them on me. And so the Saturdays for me were like, I got another gear today. Yeah. And some days it didn't totally work out like that, but a lot of the days, Saturday, I was just a racer.
Yeah, I talked about this on the Rewind show a little bit, like, and when it came to pressure, because it's the same thing. I mean, it's golf. Golfers, I go play with some of these guys that come out and shoot 65s, 66 at Ellsworth, and then they go to PGA Tour or try to qualify on Monday and shoot like 82-90, right? Like, just
so the lights out with no pressure.
Yeah, lights out. And then what I started noticing, these same guys that could shoot that, I started playing them in match play. And if I just stayed close, I would Cooper Webb them. Like, honestly, like it was just the pars that would just kill them. Like, they would think they're out, and I would just be sitting there hitting it. And since I got in golf, I almost forgot where I was going with this whole conversation. But I guess my point with Regal and all that, since you were trying to help them, like, thinking about it now, do you feel like you were almost, almost helping them by showing them, like, hey, dude, come on, get faster. Come on, get faster. It was almost making it worse, like they wouldn't ever beat you because they were like, this dude's trying to help me. So that means he doesn't even look at me as a competition. So it's almost keeping them. And maybe at the time, like, you wasn't, like, thinking that. But, like, now, sitting back, like, do you feel like I can only think to myself, like, some of the teammates that I had, like, I would help, Chisholm more than I would even Blake Baggett, because I knew Blake Baggett, like, he had something. But Chisholm, I'd be out there all day. But no matter how fast he would always let me by. Like, I knew I never raced that guy. Where I knew Baggett, he would learn, and I could see him getting better, and he would actually try to race me. So I guess with that point, I don't know necessarily. I never really saw you ride with Emick that way, right?
Well, we never rode together.
I was gonna say that.
We didn't ride together. When he moved to California, we didn't ride together because he was just, at the time, we didn't get along.
But even like Mike LaRocco or Kardowski.
He did, yeah. Those guys, they lived in different, like, LaRocco never lived near me.
Oh, yeah. Well, true.
And then Kudrowski lived up North LA, so he was never close to me. So we never rode. Those guys sort of, they're from the generation before me though. So they had the old school thought.
Yeah.
Like, I can't ride with that guy because I'm going to race him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I had the like, hey, I want to love on everyone and bring everyone into pile and let's all ride together and let's have a good time. Let's have a party. I never looked at it like, hey, maybe I'm kind of trying to control the situation.
Yeah.
It's funny that you bring that up. I never thought of it like that. I honestly didn't. I just liked to help guys. And I liked when we could all just do it together. I never thought about what they thought of it. Like, hey, he's trying to control us. I don't think they thought that. No, we were all buddies.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thought though. It definitely is.
Yeah. I don't think they thought you were controlling them just subconsciously. I actually think you were doing that, and not as a negative on there. I just think like, yeah, I'm trying to help you and all that, and showing up and racing you. I can only look at it as like the Chisholm effect in the sense, like, I genuinely want to help this guy, but at the same time, by me helping him is showing him that like I have no fear of like making him better because he'll never be as good as me.
And he can never beat you.
Yeah, and I think he looks at you as almost his mentor. So they really wouldn't try you like that. So
I think maybe that's possible if the gap is too big. Like, right? You were exceptionally better than him at the time, right? And you were trying to help him when he was coming up Saturdays.
Yeah.
And I felt like, you know, like for my whole career, even though I was winning, I wanted to be the same as everybody else. I wasn't always trying to be Showtime. I wasn't always trying to be a show off. And you know, it's one of those things where I was just trying to never get, you know, I let my riding speak for itself, but I wasn't always trying to be noticed.
Yeah.
You know, so riding with my buddies and hanging with them, it just made me feel normal.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't really sign up to race to get all the accolades and all the stuff. I just love riding my dirt bike.
Yeah, no, I could tell that. I mean, again, you wouldn't be that way because I think there's kids in the sport that, I mean, I'm not going to say any names, but almost feel like they are trying to do that, and you can kind of see.
You can see it.
You can see through it on there, and whether
sure.
they even trying to be genuine or not, it comes off as like they're trying to do that. Where I mean, I keep looking at these photos on the wall. That was you on there, and then so I think the difference is you can ride with them, and you guys are hanging out. But when it came to race time, like you stayed like Jeremy, and you were the guy winning, and you had the knack-knacks, and you just had the cool stuff. So the Showtime it almost gave you that name because you just continued doing what you did Monday through Friday on the weekends and just in front of everybody else, and everybody else got quiet and tightened up and all that. So it made you stand out. Not necessarily like, I never felt like you were trying to be like, look, I am this guy on there. Yeah. Because you never were like that, you know, when I met you as a kid, and even like, you know,
I always think that's weird. I just think it's weird. You know?
But you know, thinking about the eras and stuff, like, so it's more like your era in the sense of everybody riding together. Like, I just thought about that. Like, now everybody rides together. They play Xbox. I mean, it's a different age, but they kind of do what
they were doing.
Yeah, what you were doing.
Right.
And I was kind of, when Ricky came in, brought us back to the Mike LaRocco kind of era. Like, I would never race with that guy. I would never ride with that guy. So it's crazy to think, like, when we say, like, man, this new generation is riding with each other. In fact, it's actually not. Like,
it's the early 90s.
It's the early 90s generation. And then it just, like, it went from 80s to nobody.
Full circle
on there. And then so they're doing that. But I would just say the difference is, I guess, what you were doing to Phil, or not, I keep saying doing to him. I have to feel like that somewhat happens with these guys when they ride with each other on there now. You know, like
I feel like it could be happening now for sure.
And the one guy that everybody kind of gets afraid of, and when they get on, they're just on, is the guys that kind of stand off by themselves. Like Cooper Webb's kind of a guy that's kind of by himself, and he's like strong. And then ET, like, you never really know what you're gonna get, but he's kind of by himself. So the guys that really get up aren't necessarily the guys that are the ones that like Roxon and Chase.
I'd put Anderson in that group too.
Yeah,
He's
he kind of is off by himself and things like that. So I still think there has to be some kind of, in this era where everybody's so close, there has to be something that separates you. I mean, like, yeah, Chase does do things better than some other guys, but then I watch Anderson and the way the bikes are.
Now it's right
yeah,
here.
it's up here. And so when I met, first time I really hung out with Ken Roxon is when I was training Chase, and we came in after the moto, and I'm just sitting back and I'm listening to him like talk and all that. And I remember telling Chase, I was like, if you ever let that guy beat you, like, I quit. I said, like, that guy should never beat you. Like, listen to what he's saying. And the same thing happened, like, with Adam. But Chase didn't have the mentality that, like, when I grew up, like, I would actually listen to people and not use it against them, but I would find a weakness. Everything, it was, like, trying to figure out how to get better. And so I think this era, it's kind of like, I mean, just that's kind of what we do. I'll tell him I'm tired too. Like, I'm like, how do you tell this guy, like, you're exhausted? You know you're getting tired in 20 minutes. You can't run these laps.
You would use that as motivation, as fuel, right?
Yes,
that was the way that would work. I think, I don't really know necessarily what these kids do. When I was racing back in the day, the training part was where, those dudes would out-train me all day long.
Yeah.
Like Ryan and Phil, they would work harder than me the whole time. But I always laugh because I'm like, you know what? I'm a dirt bike racer. I'm not a runner. I'm not a bicycle guy. I'm not like this. I mean, my whole goal was to be good on Saturday.
Yeah.
But I always felt like, and they would say this now, I always felt like they wore themselves out, and on Saturday they couldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I've heard that too.
What do you think about today?
I think today's era is very similar. The kids seem like they're having a little more fun, the younger guys. But again, I think that Ricky changed a lot of the way the kids think that they have to do it these days.
Yeah.
Anderson's kind of a different guy when it comes to that. He's got his own program and kind of does his thing. But I think we can definitely thank RC for the new way of doing stuff.
Yeah.
Training wise.
100%. But people forget, like with Ricky, it was one of those things that just like people had to learn how to ride scrub, and they actually had to change, or otherwise they would never win. Like Ricky had to like change that part. Like, I mean, he won outdoor title when he was, thicker, fatter, or whatnot. But he knew, like, and having him on the show, like, he knew he wasn't as good as you on there. So he had to figure out a different way to beat you on there.
Yeah,
and
he's told me that.
Yeah.
I've heard
him
say that.
He went down like, all right, I'm going to look and I'm going to be mentally like just stronger than him on there. Because I know I'm not better than him. And
he out-physicaled me.
Yeah. and so I almost feel like it's almost in the sense of like where LaRocco or Emick, they're sitting there training and doing all this stuff, and you still beat them on the weekend. Like, they're wearing themselves out, but what they were doing even worse is almost beating themselves almost beating themselves twice. Yeah. Because they're like, dude, I'm training, I'm doing everything anyway. And this guy's still getting it on there. He ain't doing anything, which just makes it so much worse.
Well, that was always a funny part too, because they always thought I wasn't ever doing anything, because I would always everything was always so happy and all this stuff. But I would do my best to do a lot of work without anybody knowing.
Oh, yeah. See, that's where Jeremy used to tell me. And then like I had the pleasure of working with Skip for a little while. And he gave me some like stories. He was like, oh no, do work on there. He said you just knew when to do it, and his persona
I wanted everyone to think that I wasn't.
See, and you're talking about like I didn't play them games. I didn't do that. Like, I mean, it was a different way to do it.
Mostly with Emick.
Yeah, you were just like, look, I'm not gonna do it in public, But in the back of the day, dude, to win as many races, you had to be like, you had to be a killer on there. Your instincts was like a killer, just in a different type. So, so let's kind of get into that, since you brought up the Ricky. In 2001, you won the Supercross.
No, actually, I won in 2000.
In 2000, you won in 2000. Then you show up at Anaheim 1, you win that one. Did you see this coming a little bit? Like,
no,
it was out of nowhere.
It was definitely out of nowhere, and he did a lot of training secretly, obviously.
Yeah.
And he found a way to figure out how to get it done. And I think the year before, he won Daytona, maybe, right?
Yeah, won Daytona
in 2000.
Yep.
And I still won a lot of races in 2000.
Oh yeah, you were dominant. I think your biggest competition was maybe like Wyndham and
maybe Vuillemin or something.
Yeah, Vuillemin and all that. So in 2001, because he started training in outdoors. So in 2000, he actually was starting to get smaller and stuff, and he came in. But then you come out and you basically dominate him at Anaheim 1. I mean, I think Ricky got like third that night. He was maybe winning, and then he just kind of faded back. And then Phoenix came around, and he beat you at Phoenix. You got a bad start, I believe.
Yeah.
Then Anaheim 2. No. So I take that back. It wasn't Phoenix. San Diego. Yeah. So you dominated Anaheim 1, second round, San Diego. Then you guys had this gnarly battle, like great battle.
Anaheim 2, right?
No. It's at San Diego.
Oh, San Diego.
Yeah, San Diego. You guys have a gnarly battle. He gets you at the end. And then you show up at Anaheim 2, and then you win, but it was close. It was close. I remember him running into you, and then he waved you through, but it was close. Then it became Anaheim. Phoenix, he won.
From that night on. It was from that night on I couldn't beat him.
Yeah, but the crazy part was you had these first 5 races, right?
Yeah.
And again, I'm a history of the sport, so I kind of know
yeah.
Nothing was going to change. Comes out 2001, nothing's changed. I think maybe that was the Dingleberries. I don't know. You come out for whatever, you dominate it. Ricky's skinny, whatever. You still get tired, you still win. Then he comes out San Diego. And then for him, it was his first time he ever beat you in a Supercross. Straight up in a Supercross. Yeah. But you slid out, so maybe have what it was.
Yeah.
And then you guys you had the gnarly battle at Anaheim 2. Then he wins Phoenix. You get a bad start at Phoenix. He runs off. Then Anaheim 3 happens, where he gets a bad start. And then from that point on, I feel like that's when it changed. And that's why I asked you, did you see this coming, or was it the fact that like it came out of nowhere and it almost shocked you to the like what happened the rest of that year? Like,
it's funny because did I know, let's just preface it a little bit. Did I know that Carmichael was going to become a fierce competitor of mine? I thought eventually, right? Yeah. But you have to remember, like in 2001, when he won his first championship, and that kind of changed the changing of the guard thing, and he had been in the class for 4 seasons.
Yeah.
And not even finished about I don't know, did he even finish any of the series? He remember he crashed and cut his leg open with the bike, and he had a bunch of crashes, and he had won Daytona.
Yeah, he won Daytona.
But I was like, wow, man, never really expected, I thought maybe eventually it was going to happen. And going into the 2001 season after winning the championship in 2000, I'm like, all right. But, looking back at that, when Anaheim 2 happened and we had that battle, and I was dog tired that night. I mean, he wore me thin that night. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I'd never had to ride like 20 hard, like wide open laps.
Yeah.
I mean, even our main events were much shorter than now, right? But he pushed it to the limit and made me ride to the limit. And, at that point I go, well, shoot, man, I did not train enough for this season. And when you don't train enough, you can't catch up when you're in the middle of a series. You're actually just like, you're toast. You are what you are.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, if this is how it's going to be for the next rest of the races, like I'm not in a good position.
Yeah. And
Ricky, at that time, he got that mental boost from San Diego.
Yeah.
We had the gnarly battle at Anaheim 2. He did run into me. Then we went over that jump, and he went wide right there.
Yep.
But in my mind, right there, he was gone. He was going off the top of that berm. So he opened the door up smartly on his part, because I didn't take any guys out, but I was going to send
really?
him
I didn't know that.
right there. I was going to blast him.
Yeah.
And so he opened the thing, and I passed him back, and then he, I don't know, maybe he wasn't fully confident yet because he kind of followed me around the rest of it, right? And I had to just put in my best couple laps to get to the end of it. But even that night winning, I just knew like, whoa, that was a shocking race for me.
Yeah.
So I didn't see it coming like before the season, but when those 3 races happened, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally understand that. And I actually think I don't know if it was Ricky who told me this or just kind of what I saw, but a good thing you probably didn't take him out. over there, because then people would have been like, look at him. He's taking this dude out. Then maybe they would have changed. Maybe he wouldn't have got his boot as much as it was. But the fact is, like, he was like, dude, I hit you on accident. Like, he still didn't. Like, I mean, it was an accident. I mean, everybody kind of saw that. But, dude, it's your house, whatnots, and respect the king. He rolls over, not knowing he was going to get blasted off that thing. But it was probably a good thing, because the fans, they were still – like on your side. They didn't change for like, man, he hates losing, like, you know, kind of attitude. But it was that night that I think it was Ricky who told me, he was like, I got him on there. I got him. It was at your house. And then obviously when he sealed it at Anaheim 3, for him, you know, getting a bad start and like running you down and all that, it was a big thing. But I guess, my question was, and you kind of answered a little bit, it was, I think what got him was that he still knew he wasn't as good as you talent-wise, but I think he found the way, like, he saw a chip in your armor of like, I can outride him, wear him down.
Yeah, right.
On there. And then, you know, as the season goes on, it just gets harder and harder and putting those battles up. So it was really more physically, like, on there.
I think, you know, look, it's our job as professional racers to come up with a strategy to figure out how to beat the best guy. Like, you got to figure out how to beat these guys. He did himself a massive favor by putting together a good program, putting together a nice strategy to come figure out how to beat me. You know, our age gap's 10 years, right? Yeah. So I was getting older. He was the young guy. You know, you have endless energy when you're that age.
Yeah.
And to go back to the move that never happened, you know, I was desperate.
Yeah.
I wanted to win. I was desperate to win, and desperate people do desperate things. Right? And maybe it wouldn't have been the smartest thing to take him out. But I was willing to go that far. Yeah. Because I was like, this is my race, and this might be the last one. And it turns out it was the last one, you know?
Yeah.
But I always loved Ricky, you know, just like knowing him young. I met him young, like I met you young, and his parents too were great. And, you know, all the rivalry that was created in the media and stuff was all just made up.
Well, yeah, that's because
and they did it with you. They did it with everyone.
Yeah, no, I feel like Ricky benefited by me coming in, because that's when they stopped booing him. Like, literally the first year, like, I came in, they stopped booing him. And it didn't help that I was on the cover of Racer X with my shirt off saying all this stuff. And, you know, because at that time, like, and I had a sub question I wanted to ask you about that 2001 season. When I came in and I got hurt and I won, I still came out, won like 3 out of 5 races, came back. But then outdoors happened, and it was the first time in my career I ever lost. And so how, like, you win, and people like talk about, you've been winning since a young age, but it's hard to learn how to lose, right? Yeah, and especially when you won, like, it affected me like big time on there, more than just it even stopped becoming about whether I was tired or the bike. It was just like me, like, just coming home, just trying to figure out, did a part of that happen a little bit in 2001? Because it seemed like you still had everybody else covered, right? Like, Ricky got on his level, but you still had everybody else covered. But then you start battling those guys, like, back there. Did it go from like learning how to like lose? Because I still feel like in 2000 or 97, you can go back, as bad as that bike was and how many like flat tires and their first race, you still probably should have won a championship, like, on there. Like, so you can go back and be like, oh, these things happened, the bike wasn't that good. Because then you come out and you dominate again. But in 2001, it was a difference. Like, I don't know if I can do this, like, beat this guy. Compared to 97, it was like, just a bike. So did you kind of go through that a little bit in that year?
Yeah, I think, you know, you become a victim of your own success, right? So everyone expects you to win, and then you all of a sudden you lose, and you're like, what? They're like, what's wrong with you? You know, it's like, wait a second. All I've been doing is winning. Yeah. What do you mean? What's wrong with me? You forgot about those other ones?
They do too.
Oh yeah.
They forget.
You're only as good as your last race.
Oh, that's so true.
So again, I think my thinking back, and if I can just, pull it up, I run through this stuff just like we all do. I run through all my racing career. And 2001, when Ricky beat me, Still had some good battles. I got second a lot that year, right? So I won 2 races, but then got second a lot. But I still had the other guys covered.
Yeah.
Pretty much. But then at the end of 2001, I was like, that's it. That ain't happening again, because I felt like I was a little caught off guard. I didn't train as much as I needed to, right? Because I started getting beat. And I was like, oh, shit, man, I'm behind the 8 ball here. I got to catch up. So after 2001, I went crazy and started training like crazy. And it just blew my 2002 season.
Yeah.
I was like, I couldn't even ride the bike. I was like, what's wrong with me? I was getting arm pump. I was too skinny. I knew how to I was a road bicycle racer is what I was, and not a motocrosser.
Did you guys have trainers at that time? Did you?
We did. Yeah, we did. It was whatever. I was working with Todd at the time, but it was just my mentality. It was like, I got to work harder and work. I was willing to go the extra mile and go hard.
Yeah.
But it just backfired on me.
But
so
the complete opposite way than you think.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to give him a little medicine back. I'm going to race him the next year. I'm going to battle him. And just like from then on, I just taillights and never saw him.
Yeah.
And of course by then, he had gained the confidence, won championship, won outdoor, won all this stuff. And there's really no, father time itself. You just can't catch up. But I was willing to go for it. And so then it kind of cost me. So I was third the following year. And then
did you end up third that year?
I ended up third.
Yeah.
But even after a lot of terrible races.
Yeah.
Like I just was consistently terrible, really. 4th, 5th, whatever. And then I ended up third in the points.
Yeah.
So
it was crazy because I guess you go from when you're saying like you win all these races to you didn't win any races that year. And it was like a podium. I think you got third at Anaheim 3 or something like that. It was like one of your first ones that year in Atlanta. But you end up third overall. But you went from winning all these races to not. To where I'm like, damn, you got third that year? Like on there, it seemed like so bad compared to your standard. Even compared to 2001 or 2001 with him, it was like, I'm not used to Jeremy, like like at least being up there competing. Like,
well, you asked me if I had to learn how to lose, really. And I think I did. It took a while to learn how to lose, learn how to accept that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just always felt like, wow, okay, this is what it's like at the end of it,
Yeah.
And you never know what that feeling is. Like, you never know. Like, okay, like when you're winning, you're like, shit's going to go on forever.
Yeah.
I'm going to win forever.
Yeah.
Especially when you dominate.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it doesn't. You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I went through that. That's the Yamaha days. Like for me, when they switched it, I mean, we had the Lloyd's of London programs that it was like, all right, you pay this premium and you got to win 10 races to get this thing. And it was like, all right, like no problem. And then all of a sudden the bike comes in and I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like I can't just step up and like do this. So the same thing, like I never, and when I say learn how to lose, that doesn't mean like you go race like accepting failure. It was just you have to learn how to lose to continue to work instead of being so down. Like you just work and continue to get better. And I went through that almost in first year on Suzuki's, and then at Supercross 2013, it started building me up to where then in 14 I came back and I'm like, I won like 5 races, could have easily won 10. I was good enough to win 10, and then I swear, like before the suspension, I would have won that 15. Like it was the best I've been riding since my last ever probably.
Yeah.
And then I didn't end up racing, but it was the point of winning and then being so kind of lost, kind of confused, looking like Chase Sexton in my confused, point to then learning how to figure that out and then slowly working back up to where I got to the point where I thought I was around the best I ever had, but things happen. So to me, and we'll take a commercial break, but I wanted to ask you one more question before we take that. Was there a point that you were racing that you knew you wasn't going to win? Like you wasn't racing to win, like any point to your last race in 06, or did you always still feel like
no, my race career when I was racing for points, I always felt like I could win until like 2002, pretty much. 2004 and 5 and 6 or 5 and 6 when I messing around racing some races. I didn't go out there. I knew I couldn't win.
Yeah.
It was you, Chad, and RC.
Yeah.
And the night I got fourth twice, the night at San Diego that I got you in the heat race.
Yeah.
And
oh, I'm so glad
we're gonna go into that. We're gonna go into that because it's gonna be funny. But that night I got fourth, and I have a great photo of you, Ricky, and Chad, and me from the podium there. And I was spraying the champagne because I got the whole shot, so that's why I was up there. But it's a really great photo for me because you were the three big dogs, and then it was still me at my older retired age, and I was like, yeah, look at that. So when I look at that photo, I'm really proud of it because I'm like, here's the three best guys in the world, and I'm still able to hang with them right here.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
And it's a great photo in my hallway, Raj, in my hallway at home. It's cool, and I'm spraying the champagne, and it's you three and me. So it's a really great photo. But when I was able to get fourth 2 weeks in a row, it was on that two-stroke in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And then San Diego, I switched to 450 and got fourth. You three beat me. But that felt like a win to me. Like it just felt like a win to me. My goal was to go get the whole shot because I knew I could do that. And then the knack on the first lap.
Knack.
Yeah, that was the only time I ever knack on the first lap. That's the Guy Cooper move.
Yeah,
right
Guy Cooper. Yeah,
so,
full on.
But so at that time in my career, I was already retired. I was doing some testing for Honda. I wasn't meant to go out there and win. I was just really enjoying my bike. The career part was over. I was still loving my bike, wanting to ride, testing with the guys. Like we talked about, was feeling pretty good Monday to Friday, right? I was testing, feeling like I had some decent speed.
Yeah.
And then just for fun, Kehoe would like, hey, you should race. Come out and race. And so supplied me with a bike, and it was cool. We did the two-stroke that week and then the four-stroke the next week. And we were just doing stuff that was different, and it was all just for fun. So at that point, I never had any pressure to win.
Yeah.
My whole goal was just to try to whole shot you guys or beat you guys at the start or something because I knew it would never last. So.
Yeah, I mean, when you're the last one to get top 5 on a two-stroke.
Yeah, that was cool. Last whole shot on the two-stroke.
Yeah.
And then last top 5. Yeah. Got fourth that night.
On there. And, dude, I was so pissed because I went down at Phoenix. And then so I had to run this guy down on there. And I'm like he's half-ass retired guy. He's like, get out of my way.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that next story. But, all right, let's take a quick commercial break. But this has been some good stuff. We'll be right back.
They say an object in motion tends to stay in motion. We test that idea on a daily basis. Motion and experimentation. Motors and manpower. We continue to evolve and thrive. So whether you climb or cross over, find your own line or pin it wide open, as long as you're moving in a way that gives you what you need, we'll be here for you.
What's up, guys? It's your boy James Stewart. You see this shirt I got on? Now, I know we all have family. We all be coming out here. Everybody wants to be a part of Bubba's world. I want to be a part of it. Well, if you want to, make sure you click on this link because you can get this shirt. At least you can get this far. We got a bunch of things coming in the future, some exciting things. And I know you send in your videos. Maybe you can end up on the show that way. But if not, always make sure you get this pretty shirt, black and white, and some more coming soon. Click this link right here. Go get yours. All right, we're back. And of course, I'm sitting here with the legend, Jared McGrath. And I think we about to get into a little dark time when your boy JS7 took out the king. And so I'm kind of interested to hear what you have to say too. So let's get into that night. So that was 06, Anaheim 3?
Yeah, I think it was Anaheim 3, 06.
I've already crashed 3 times by then, so I was coming up.
Yeah. So it wasn't supposed to work out like that, right? He already been down a couple times. And then here he comes along the way, and then I'm minding my own business, running around at about 5th or whatever.
Bam!
6th.
Yeah.
And then bam! I'm like, what? Yeah, there it is right there.
I thought I had more room than that.
Yeah.
There was no.
Not stoked.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's funny now to talk about it, but I was like, well, I'm minding my own business. I went wide for you and everything, and then I got hung up. But
it's an AC move in Barsha. That's why he was like, dude. Right.
So the interesting thing about that for me is not that I got taken out or whatever, but the next week at San Diego, I was like, man, I can't let that slide. And then I got a hole shot, and you were on my outside, and you were gonna get the hole shot pretty much, but I was on the inside, and I just left it on a little bit longer. And then I remember this distinctly because I had my elbow out, and my elbow went in like into your like helmet area.
Got me good.
And knocked you off the track. And then I was like, oh no, I've done it now because I'm gonna get smoked on the way up. So I was like riding around, and I got the whole shot. So I was like, Chad must have passed me or someone, and I was second at the time. And then I knew you'd be coming back up. So then you come through the pack, you get to me, and you go right by me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what? I'm like, I was expecting to get blasted, right?
Yeah.
And then I know later you figured out that was me and not him, right? But what was interesting about that for me was 2 years. Like, I think it took 2 years for you and me to say one word to each other after that.
Yeah, no, I was pissed.
And it was a heat race.
I was pissed on there, and so here we are. We're watching right now. So I get there first on there, and then luckily for you, you had on blue gear,
right?
And I wouldn't think the king. I knew this was your last race.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, whatever. And then so I was picturing Reed would do that. So when you came and did it, it caught me off guard to where obviously I didn't even think it was you.
Right.
It's a good thing. So I'm up there, and then you come in there, and then right here, and then I almost crashed. But thank you, by the way, because you actually set that night up. You don't even realize.
Right.
You set that night up for me to actually end up winning that main event because I actually found some great lines coming up through the people. But, dude, all I saw was red. I saw red, but I was looking for blue. But Ricky was faster than me pretty much most of that day. And he was faster than me even in this race as far as the single lap time. But I was able to, like, find these lines on there from passing different people that allowed me to end up winning that race to follow him. But yeah, you did me like that, and I am so, when you know how the situations work out in life where you're just like, I'm glad they worked out the way they did.
Yeah.
Because I would have killed you that night.
Well, you know what? I'm most disappointed about the night or that night, the San Diego night, was that it cost us talking for like 2 years or however long it was until we talked. You know what I mean? And I was never mad. I was just like, he's really mad at me. So that was the most disappointing thing for me. And I thought, just so you know, and you know me because you've watched all these years, I would have never done that in the final.
Yeah. I know.
So I was like, that's a heat race. Here it is. Here's the opportunity. I'm just going to let them know that that wasn't cool.
Yeah.
And so if that was the final, there was no chance I would have I would have never done that.
No,
it's a bummer.
Me being upset that's when you get the, I would say maybe people around you there. And I think there was two parts. I guess looking back on it, I mean, I probably would have done the same thing on there. Like, I cleaned you out in my head at Anaheim. Like, I didn't mean to at all.
Right. Yeah.
And
I mean, you were coming. You were already looking through past me. You were like,
it was an aggressive move on there. I shouldn't have done that. And in my head, I was thinking, well, he cut down on there. Like, if you would have followed the line, like where I actually thought you were going to kind of go out.
Yeah.
So I would have been there, and then I would have got close. But the fact that you kind of squared down and hit me, then I fell. I was thinking like, all right, it was stupid, but I didn't even mean to take him out on there.
More his fault.
Yeah, and of course, like I'm out here raising whatever. And then so when you did that, when I found out, I was bummed that I'm like, I thought we were kind of like over this. I thought he sensed that I didn't mean to take him out. And then so when you did that, again, I had no beef. And actually, it was funny that the opportunity came back. I was even laughed to myself. I'm like, no way. Opportunity is back like the next week. Because a lot of times, as a racer, you get these opportunities. Something bad happens and you don't have an opportunity for a while. Yeah. And I may have never had an opportunity. Yeah, I mean, because that was it.
That was it. Yeah.
But you know what it was? It wasn't that you took me out. I guess it was the fact that, again, going back, and it was stupid. And I think that's what being young and having perspective on life, where we're at, that you were still my hero at that time. And that, like, it hurt me more that my like hero did that to me, like intentionally. And then like I was bummed on that more than actually what you did.
Right. I didn't think of it like that either, so.
And then so to be honest with you, that's why I stopped talking, because it was like my hero kind of breaking my heart, even though my hero had every reason to do it and like he should have done it. So it wasn't that you.
And I was bummed a lot about that, because we were friends and we are friends, and I'm like, this sucks, you know?
Yeah.
But
I'm
glad it's all in the past.
No, and again, hindsight, I'm glad you had blue gear on that night.
We should have talked about it that night.
Yeah, I mean,
we totally should have talked about it that night.
Yeah, again, well, if I was older, I probably would and have perspective on it. But again,
in the moment was never going to happen.
It was heated. It was heated. And, and just the shining light of that night is, I have a great photo that I'm really proud of, that it's you and RC and Chad and me in the same thing after the podium on the main.
Yeah, I must have been like way over here. Well, I probably was happy.
You three were kind of together, and I was spraying champagne. So we weren't on the podium. It was like after you guys were off celebrating. But anyways, it's one of my favorite photos.
Yeah, I actually remember that. And like, this is going to sound so bad. I'm like, why are they bringing him up here?
You remember that?
Yeah, I remember it, because like they never bring fourth place up on the podium, like up on there. And then like my hero just broke my heart. I don't want to be around him on there.
Get him out of here.
But I'm like, dude, whatever. But the cool part is that it created one of the best races of my career. Like that heat race, dude, gave
you some fire.
I was on another level, because I really do think RC would have beat me that night on there. He had me.
Really?
Well,
Yeah.
good.
So
I'm glad I could help out.
Yeah. No, so you actually helped me out. That was one. I crashed in the first corner, then I crashed again, then I took the king out. But at my time, dude, I'm thinking about chasing that dude down. So I was looking right through you on there, and didn't even really think. To be honest with you, I didn't even know it was you that I took out on there.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I've been in this situation, right? And I should have thought about it then too. But you know, when you're coming and there's nothing on your mind, you're seeing through everyone. You don't see anyone when you're coming up to them, and that was just a casualty of how it worked out.
Yeah, you had every right to be.
But then you got to think of it from my point of view. I'm like, I'm not in anyone's way, not doing anything, and then just. That happened.
I'm be honest with you. I appreciate you thinking like that way now. Like, as far as like, you know what I should have been thinking? No, you should have been thinking exactly what you thought on there. Like, you would have never seen me coming, because I didn't even know I was coming. I was looking through you. I was out of control. Exactly. I've already crashed 3 times. So my record of staying up isn't pretty good. But I was going through. But the fans at MC's house, they let me know. On there, I was like, I wouldn't do that again. But yeah, it was my hero. Like, I was like my hero, kind of like Iron Man, or like when kids find out Santa Claus is daddy. Like, you're like, man, damn, like I don't even like this dude on there. But but it was good, and I'm glad we got over that. But it did create for one of the best nights, and now it's the night Rick Ash, his daughter, passed away.
Oh yeah.
So
that's right.
It was just, it was a special night. Like, there was just so many things. Like, even that heat race. Being put in that moment, it was so cool. Like, I'll never forget this race. It's like the one I went to at 40 at the first. It was one of those type of races. Yeah. So if you wouldn't have done what you were done, I wouldn't have that memory. And I'm pretty sure we wouldn't have won that night on there. It was we were struggling. Bike was messing up. It was bogging. RC.
Oh, really?
It was a rough day.
A mess.
It was a rough day.
Yeah.
Team wasn't really,
jiving that day.
Yeah. Everybody was sad because it just happened.
Yeah.
And so you actually knocked me off into the zone on there.
Well, that's
and
good.
It was special. So I remember following Ricky 18 laps. And I was like, I'm going to pass on the last lap on here. And that's what I did. So it was a good night of racing. But for sure, I felt bad afterwards, because I'd take Reed out. And then after the finish line, I'm like, and he's like looking at me like,
he's like, what are you talking about?
Like, what are you talking about? And I was still getting at him. And I remember my dad's like, Junior, the king done did that to you. The king, the retired one, he done did that. I was like, what? And he was like, you need to go apologize to Chad. I was like, hey, Chad, I'm sorry. Whatever, not really. I'm sorry. And on that. And
I'm just bummed. It happened, whatever it happened, but I was just bummed that we lost 2 years of like not talking to each other for no reason.
Yeah,
really.
No,
and seriously, and in my mind, I'm like, it's only a heat race.
Yeah. Well, you remember my heat race.
You remember the heat race.
Right? That was my main event.
Yeah.
And at that point, I don't know if we talked about this on podcast, but I mean, I won a lot of heat races, but I actually went, like, my goal was to win all the heat race. I won every heat race like for like 2 years in a row.
Oh, wow.
On that. So you were messing up with my.
So that was something I had no idea.
Yeah, no,
Right?
it was the main event to me.
Yeah.
I feel like a little bit like how I raced a little bit my heat races and how I was feeling dictates. I guess
How your final goes?
Yeah, it dictates of how dominant I would be. Like, and I feel like when we talk about Chase, sometimes like if you watch him, he's fast in practice. And if he can get through those practices and heat race good, then he'll be solid in the main event. But if things start going wrong, like it affect him. Well, I was kind of like that a little bit. But I mean, again, we struggled all day. MC knocked me off the racetrack, and that kick started my deal and fold. But as racers, we're always looking for one particular thing, especially when the days are going wrong, the spark.
You need nuggets.
Yeah,
like
and
nuggets.
you gave me a 20
Sparked
piece.
you up.
You gave me a 20-piece nugget right there, and it sent
yeah.
me off. And I had that guy, and I remember doing that to him because that was the second time I did it to him that year. And he like comes up and like shakes my hand, and like when he grabs it, like dude, he like grabs that thing so hard, and then he was like trying to like be cool for the fan because that was like, there goes my hero on that. But dude, he like squeezed the hell out of my hand because I knew he was freaking pissed. And then you can see him going down the straight like on that. But it was good. It was a good night.
Well, those are the races that like he did that to me. He'd run behind me the whole time and then pass me.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know he did that. So I was hooking you up then.
Yeah. No, so I mean, those like for you running behind him all those laps and then beating him at the end, those are the ones that change things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those races change things.
Yeah. Well, I did it because I knew usually only time I did that to Ricky is when I knew he was faster than me. And I knew I had lines that beat him. So it wasn't me just like, I'm just going to play around with him. It's because I knew if I passed him, he's been faster than me all day. He's going to figure out where, and he's probably going to get me back. So I'm going to wait till the last minute. So I have to assume that Ricky did that to you as well. Because he's like, well, this dude is that good on there. Because if I could pass him, I'd rather just blow past him and just dip off from him. It makes my day easier.
Right. Makes
on there.
it easier,
Yeah, so I already had the excuse built in my head. Like if I didn't lose, I was going to say, well, I was trying as hard as I could the whole time. Couldn't get around him. Had arm pump. Yeah. But, afterwards, I'm like, I was just playing with him. But but no, it was good. It was good. Well, so before we go, what's life like now for you? I see you every week on the Science of Supercross, and you're doing that. Been doing that for a few years, but like, are you still like riding the family? Like, what are you up to these days?
I have, so my wife, Kim, and I have 2 daughters. They're 17 and 15 already.
Wow.
It's crazy. We're looking at colleges for my older daughter, Rowan. And I ride my dirt bike, probably once every couple weeks. Like I still love riding my dirt bike.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of side-by-side. Like my girls love off-roading. So when they're not playing sports, we follow them around playing lacrosse. So they play lacrosse. And they're in high school lacrosse now. And but
is that like the scholarship for college lacrosse or
no? They're just in high school sports.
No. I'm talking about picking for college. Is it?
Oh no, I don't think they're going to get scholarships for sports. Maybe. I don't think so. We're just looking at schools.
They're just smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're smarter than I was. Let's just say that. A lot smarter than I was.
Yeah, it's
I
hard.
never saw the light of day at a college. That's
Dude,
for sure.
Love the honesty.
I'm telling you, like I'll be doing my kids' first grade work, and I'll be like, huh? Like, what is
Google?
Yeah, I Google it up right now, and I'm like,
oh man,
first
I've
grade.
had some of those instances
Yeah,
where I'm
like,
trying to teach my daughters some math when they were younger, and they're like, "Dad, that's not the right way."
Yeah, I'm like, I've counted millions and seen all numbers. I've never seen anything in life where you're gonna read it like this. So I'm teaching my way.
It's way over my pay grade these days, for sure.
Yeah, but continue
on. Like I do a lot of brand ambassador stuff for Cowie. Do a lot of events. We have a lot of fun. We do. Like in the off-roading world, they have a thing called this TRX 1000 side-by-side. So my daughters really love that. We go, when we can, we race some off-road desert stuff in the side-by-side. Yeah. So we go as a family to the desert when we can. So we're still doing off-roading and stuff. I stay busy with doing stuff like that. I mean, I like to work on stuff. My dad was a mechanic by trade for his whole life.
Yeah.
he retired a few years ago. I took over his shop, remodeled it. Now I have my side-by-sides in there. I work on my stuff with my buddies. Still ride my dirt bike. Still ride mountain bikes when I can, for sure. Follow my kids around in sports. And that's really it, man. I'm just ride my dirt bike when I can and when the conditions are good. Like, it's been raining in California this week, so I'm going to try to ride dirt bikes this week.
That's awesome.
But
I don't think anyone's done a better job of staying more relevant after their racing career than you have.
yeah, I appreciate it. It's like kind of like, you know, I'm not trying to be that guy. I just love my dirt bike and I love the sport and love what it's provided me and my family for our lives. It's something that we never imagined would happen. So I still enjoy it, man. I just enjoy being around the scene. Try to hit some Supercrosses when I can.
Yeah.
We filmed Science Supercross, the host of that. So I stayed pretty busy with a lot of stuff, you know, try to work with some sponsors and do
Which
some
I think
stuff
that
with
too.
Truly.
I think you made the right choice with all those sponsors after retirement.
I really have a good relationship with Maxxis Tires.
Yeah.
Help them develop some moto tires. I run their stuff on my side-by-sides. When I was racing off-road trucks
I didn't know that.
for a while, they provided the race tires for my race trucks at that time. So we won the championship in 17 for that. So yeah, I do a lot of stuff with Maxxis and create moto tires and help them with that. And they're not really known in the moto world like the Dunlops and the whatever, Bridgestones and whatever. So I try to, whatever I do, I just try to keep it fun.
Yeah.
You know?
Question, do you think the way you kind of, I would say, ended your career, but I guess the last couple of years on the Honda, you know, just like you were saying, you're selecting races here and there. Do you think that allowed you to be able to kind of make that transition into this side to where like you can be involved instead of being like full on competitive going to racing to win? Okay, I can't win. And then it's like you retire, like the dipping and dabbing, like more helping.
I think absolutely it did. You know, I even having to really retire, I'm so in love with dirt bikes and this sport and have so much passion for it that it would have been really tough. Like, so when I retired from Yamaha, right? So when I stopped racing for Yamaha, it was because Yamaha offered my contract to Vuillemin or whatever. And I was like, oh shit, I got to go get this KTM. You know, KTM's kind of wanted to build a new race bike. And then that didn't happen. So I was like, oh, I got to retire because I'm not going to be able to ride this bike. It's not really ready yet.
Yeah.
This bike wasn't worthy for Supercross and what we needed at the time.
Yeah.
And they decided not to make a new bike. So I was like, well, I have to retire at the time, right? So,
They promised you.
They did, and it was just a little too early. And I'm no one's at fault. It's just circumstances, right? They weren't ready for it. I wasn't ready for it. They just for whatever business reasons. But you always, and you know this because you've had the end of your career.
Yeah.
Your script that you have in your head never goes the way you want it to.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on racing Benny Bloss the last time I raced. Well, he was out there, but
right.
Yeah.
And that was me. At the end, did I think I wanted to be doing a parade lap world tour, parade lap retirement tour on a KTM?
Yeah.
That really wasn't ready for riding set of whoops. Scariest thing of my life.
Yeah. And I will say, like, as a fan, it was, in being out there race, it was awkward.
That was awkward.
It was awkward.
It felt awkward.
Yeah, because it was like, one, you never had any really relationship with that brand. And I just remember, I'm like, not sad, but it just,
what a weird ending.
Yeah. On there. And it wasn't you. It was just the whole look. Like,
trust me, I felt it. And I mean, the whole signing with KTM was weird to me. But I was so mad at Yamaha, and I probably did that out of spite.
Yeah.
I was mad at Keith. You know, Keith and I get along great now. It's totally fine. But at the time, I was pissed, and you just don't want to see the ending of your career happen the way it did. And I thought, for sure, I should be riding a Yamaha.
Yeah.
I should be riding a Yamaha. If not, I should be riding a Honda.
Exactly, yeah.
So immediately when the KTM, the reason I did the tour on the KTM is because I had a contract with them that was supposed to happen through the next year. It didn't work out. They're like, hey, just ride some retirement laps on this thing, which was super dangerous. I shouldn't have been doing that.
You're like, look, I ain't gonna die out
so
here for this
sketchy on
stuff.
that thing.
Yeah.
And so immediately after that, when I retired, I went and bought some 250s. I went and bought like a Suzuki. I went and bought a Honda because at that time it was 5 years removed from the first aluminum frame bike, right? Mm-hmm. 5 or 6 or 07. So it's like 8 years. The bikes had gotten better. I was like, you know what? I'm not tied to anyone. I had a really cool private track. You might have rode there, the one in Temecula I had. I'm not sure if you ever did. But was just riding 2-strokes, riding for fun. And then that's when the testing thing started to work out with Eric Kehoe, and I were good friends. He's like, hey, come and ride, do some testing. And that's kind of how that thing worked. And then I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, this is cool.
Yeah.
Really enjoying it, having some testing. And then that's when those races started to happen. So what was really cool about that is it allowed me to settle down without just that sudden cliff drop off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then those races were really fun because I wasn't chasing points.
Yeah.
I wasn't in the championship. I wasn't racing for points. It really didn't matter what happened. Like one of the rounds, San Francisco, when it was super muddy, I fell over in the heat. It was super muddy. I'm like, what am I doing out here? I just went and parked the bike. I'm like, that's it. I'm done. Yeah. I'm not racing tonight.
Oh, I love
just
it.
Done. So those kind of nights felt really good. And then at the end of 2006, when I didn't race any more races, I was like, okay, I've had enough.
I got Jay back. I'm good, conscious.
I finished 2 fourths in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right, that feels like a win. Now I can stop.
Yeah.
And so it really, Honda allowed me to sort of get that out of my system. You know what I mean? And I was already like 34, 35 at the time, which was really old, I guess, for back in those times. Like, you know, now guys are racing a bit later. But, yeah, so I think, you know, it allowed me to ease into life.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I'm one of the lucky ones that I don't have to have a 9-to-5 job. And there's, you know, 5 or 6 of us that are lucky in that way.
Yeah.
And it's really just allowed me to kind of cruise into life at my own pace. And it's worked out good. And I have a lot of great relationships. Wouldn't trade it for the world. And just being at home, being a family, man.
Yeah.
I like it. No,
that's cool. Because it's crazy. Like the reason I asked that question, because when I ended my career, like I didn't actually retire when I retired. I didn't think Washuga was my last race, and I was still planning on doing it. But it was the stuff that was going on behind the scenes that made me maybe kind of your situation with Yamaha, like, you know, the same thing happened with Suzuki, and it was just like bitter, like on that, like all these years, and to kind of find out like this, it kind of sucks. So for me, the lucky part is I had my first kid, and so I was tied in with that. And I think that suspension kind of helped me, like, because I was already off for years, so I kind of knew what life would be outside of racing, even though I was still training. Yeah. So my kid kept me into that point to where I could be like away from racing and not be like, oh, I miss it. And then I started working with Chase, and I started working with Cole. We started doing these recaps with Bell, but Chase started getting me that same thing you probably was getting at with Honda. It was like it was fun. I would go and almost kind of live through him and help him, like help somebody else, help the whole team, and get that satisfaction of like getting there. And it just kind of woke me up to like, man, this is fun, to where I transitioned into like this and really enjoy it. And to this day, like I wouldn't say I don't have an urge to race, but I don't have that missing piece where where Ryan Dungey, he came back and he wanted to race. Like I've never felt like that from day one. Yeah. And you know, so now I'm like, you don't want to ride a little bit more because my kids are getting into it, and just all these other opportunities. So I feel like I am lucky to be able to retire and all the things that happen, but I'm lucky to be in a position to where like I don't miss it to like the extent to where like if I want to race, and if I wanted to go do it, it'd be my choice. Like not like I'm like, damn, I think I still have more left, or I'm missing something. I don't feel like that. So yeah, it's cool. I just wanted to ask you that question.
That's a blessing, right? Because you had your first son. Yeah. Distracted you from thinking like, hey, I need to be racing right now. Yeah. I mean, it's weird how life works, man. Just like the script that you believe it's supposed to be, it's never that. Yeah. Yeah. You know, and we all have this weird unscripted ending, really. And
everything happens.
You know, I think for me, one of the important things was that when I was done racing, I didn't really want to I didn't want to like hate the sport. I didn't want to not like my dirt bike, because that's the reason I have the life I have, right? Yeah. And you know, it's just like I just tried to make a promise to myself to keep it all fun and try to get through this thing without being mad at the end. Yeah. And I was disappointed in the way that the ending sort of worked out. It wasn't the script that I had in my head.
Yeah.
And like you said, with whatever Suzuki was doing when you were having the issues, I thought like Yamaha would be like, dude, you hadn't won a Supercross title since '81. Now you won 3 titles for us in a row. We don't care. You're our guy. We just want to let you ride off into the pasture, into the sunset.
But instead, they gave you a ride to.
You're only as good as your last race.
Yeah, and it's the truth. I mean, it really is, and that's the hard part about the sport, and that's why I always tell, like, you know, riders and young kids coming up, like, or even the guys I work with, like you these companies out here, like they're invested in you, like you're somewhat of a product, like, you know, just remember, like, you can do something to help them, just like you need them, like they need you too, you know. But whatever decision that you make, just make sure like you can sleep at night and it's yours, because at the end of the day, whether you're laid up in the hospital,
there's going to be another guy.
There's going to be another guy, and if you feel like you go out there and you do something and it ain't for you, and God forbid something happens, I said, dude, you're going to regret that on there. And so I always say, like, whatever it is, good, the results doesn't matter. Just make sure it's your choice on there, and not get into it. So
that's great advice.
No, that's cool, because it is. You're only as good as your last race. But I can't say enough. Like, especially since I've been back, the sport has treated me awesome, and being able to make up some of these relationships, or really creating another one like with you, and like Jeremy when he came down. Same thing with Ricky. Yeah. It's like you always go like, damn, like, why didn't we like talk like on there? Like we lost so many years,
and there's
like,
so many similarities.
Yeah, but then it's like, you know what? Like, yeah, we lost these years, but we got now. Like,
that's right.
Let's go out and
I'm stoked to be here mostly because we can get here and talk, and I like it. I you know, as a fan of yours, I'm stoked you're doing stuff, because you always should have been doing stuff. So it's good to see you out here doing stuff. And same thing I say about Villapoto. He was pretty angry at the sport for a while. Yeah. But it's nice to see him back and doing stuff and looking like he's having fun. Yeah. You know, Dungy, he was a little confused. Yeah. You know, he was confused.
List, yeah.
He was, but he's now sort of found his way. I think he got it out of his system. Yeah. And, you know, and you just, that's all you can hope for these guys, you know, because at the end of the day, like you said, it's got to be your decision. Yeah. And I'm, you know, as a fan, I'm just stoked for you. I'm stoked that you're liking it, right? No, that's really what you want.
Yeah. No, I love doing this. It's a weird thing. I haven't had any, I didn't think I would love it almost as much as I actually love racing. Like, it's a challenge to me. And I think for me, it spawns onto a lot of different things. But really, to hear people like you say stuff, and then like have the riders out there, like they'll pay attention and respect, and I've gotten from the industry and mainly like the riders and stuff, like that's why, like, I love it. My fans have always been there, and, you know, I've been doing things for them since day one. But just, you know, as it is, like, I'm a motorhead. Like, I feel like I'm a part of this family, and like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for everybody involved. Like, this is my family. Riding 2 wheels got me 4 wheels, nice 4 wheels, MTV cribs and stuff. So the fact that like where I grew up at, my home, that's helped me create all this stuff, they want me, and the respect they have for me just makes it awesome. So it means a lot for you to say that. And dude, it's again, you learn a little bit more today, but the stuff that you've done for my career, just like Ricky did in a whole different way, I can't be thankful for it. So it was an honor having you on, man.
Well, I appreciate it. You know, you're as much as this community as I am, and these other greats that we all got the chance to hang with and race with. And it's been a great, I think I see a volume 2 coming up at some point. Absolutely. Here. We got a lot more to talk about.
No, for sure. There, yeah. All right, guys. Well, that was it from, I almost say round 12, from episode 12 with the legend, the king, the GOAT in my opinion, Jeremy McGrath. It was awesome having you on, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming out.
I ain't gonna cry. Cut the camera off. Cut it off. Thank you.